Wherever you are in the world when you're watching, a huge hello to you. Thank you for joining me today on Random Sage. This is my semi weekly podcast. It's been growing in listenership, which is really, podcasts are difficult to start. Many just fade away. People think I'm going to start a podcast and it's going to be great, but the reality is there's a commitment involved and there's time to build a listenership. It's very much different to I have a YouTube channel, and I've just recently established a YouTube channel for this podcast because it's so very different from the videos that I make on YouTube and other platforms like Patreon. A podcast is a long form of communication, and that's not everybody's cup of tea. It's like sitting down to read a broadsheet. But there are people who prefer to listen, who prefer to get away from the melee that is social media and just put their headphones in or listen to their favorite podcast when they're driving, when they're walking. And it's a way to absorb what is being said. It's active listening. And if you know anything about communication, messages are received differently whether you're listening or whether you're watching. When you're watching, you're interpreting. When you're listening, there's other skills involved. It's very much an inner journey. But the reality is 47% of all podcasts are listened to on YouTube. So that's why I've established a separate channel, Random Sage, with Maryann from Revealing Light, which is the name of this podcast. I've established a separate channel on YouTube and I'll upload the visual as well. But I'm not here to do visuals. I'm here to do a podcast. And so I'm very much in this relationship between me and the listener. However, because I pull tarot cards, there's some visuals at the end of each of my podcasts that you might want to tune into YouTube to have a look at. Anyway, on with today's subject. Today's subject, of course, is dreams. That's what happens sometimes what happens when we go to sleep at night. We can also dream when we're, kipping during the day. It's a function of our subconscious, of our the imagination type part of our brains. Very not much. We can't really quantify it. We don't really know where these subterranean type of images. We know they come from the subconscious. But what they mean, why they're there, who sent them, is it us? Do we somehow remember our past lives when we're dreaming? Yes. Do we get in touch with our passed over loved ones when we're dreaming? Yes, we do. Do we work out our psychological issues? A la Freud and Jung, the great psychoanalysts. Yes, we do. We do all of those things because we are in a state of communication with our subconscious. If you think about our subconscious as the software, if you like, and our conscious minds as the computer, our subconscious really does direct does direct our conscious minds, our conscious decisions. And so talking, understanding, becoming aware, interacting with the subconscious is very important because it can or it does impact on our everyday living. So over the years, dreaming has been very important to me. I can remember one of my first dreams at about 3 years of age. I saw my mother running across a moonlit landscape. She was terrified and being chased by some sort of zombie apocalyptic type of character. I woke up screaming as a child, and I'd like to think that at that time my mother was making this huge move with her family and her husband from an ancestral type of generational farm to an area they knew nothing about, and with 6 children, not much money. there was a lot of fear there. So I think even as an empathetic young child, I think I was tuning into that fear. And I'll get to what dreams tell us about fear in a minute. So it's very much about when you're dreaming. Some people say, well, I just don't dream. Well, set yourself an intention. I'm going to have a dream tonight. Even if you remember a fragment, a moonlit night, write that down. Have a look at what the moon symbolically might mean. In astrology, the moon is associated with our soul, our emotions, can also be associated with our mother. There you go. I've solved that very early dream. So they are telling us something through the language of symbols. I bought a dream dictionary when I was a young adult, and I used to decipher my dreams, but probably putting too much emphasis on that psychological montage that's presented to us in dreams. That does allow us an awareness about what's really bugging us, what's really below the surface of an issue or a problem. So, what do they tell us? There is this psychological montage. There's also, in my experience, reasonably uncommon, but definitely common, prophetic dreams. And I've had those as well. They are usually highly colorized. Is that a word? They're in very vivid color, and they're very real, almost like they're actually happening. And you get a sense in the dream, oh my goodness, this is, I bet it's like a warning. And I believe that is sent to us through our inner selves, perhaps sometimes through our spirit guides. A little seed is planted around a message that we need to take heed of. So there are prophetic dreams. They are very real. And there's also the dreams where we travel in the astral plane, and we connect with people we've known in past lives, and also our passed over loved ones. And I've had all dreams, because my dream life, my connection with my subconscious, my Neptunian parts of my personality, and the Pluto also going to those hidden realms in my third house. I've been, and Venus in Scorpio, Neptune in Scorpio. It's that watery type of emotional type subconscious journey that I've been on all my life. So let's start with the psychological montages. We're giving psychological messages, perspectives we're given in our dreams at night. That's where we'll start. We'll work through these various other ways that our dreams communicate with us. It's really us communicating with ourselves before we get on to nightmares and fears, and then I'll do a reading. So that's what we're going to do today in this podcast. Psychological messages, meanings, trying to make sense of what happens during the day in our everyday lives. I can remember being, as an introvert, I know that's hard to believe, but I am. Quite overwhelmed in large crowds, and it took me a long time when I was younger to try and work out what actually people were doing, because I was an empath and I would pick up their emotions. I really didn't know whether I was responsible or how to handle that empathetic nature. But my dreams gave me a way, because they showed me what I was most fearful of. I was continually being pursued by some kind of guerrilla army in the jungle in a period of my life when I was sort of coming out, if you like, into society from teenage to young adulthood. And I got the impression that the dreams were asking me to confront my fears. And so one day, as soon as that awareness dropped, I actually turned around and faced the people or person that was pursuing me. And straight away, I was given a weapon. It was actually a machine gun, I think, and I was able to fight back. And really, around that time, it's a very subtle shift, isn't it? Evolution, but around that time, I became more confident in my empathetic abilities, but also more confident out in society generally, or in larger groups of people. So very much a psychological, and it can come to you in disordered images and themes, and it's really about taking up the challenge to work through that. What does this mean for me? What is my dream trying to tell me? And then the prophetic dreams. Well, of course, we've had those, haven't we? And they're usually warnings. Often when I get a prophetic dream, it's combined with a passed over loved one, or somebody I don't know, but I'm very familiar with, part of my familial tribe, my ancestral tribe, if you like, in the afterlife, will give me a message or a warning. I can remember a very vivid one from I travelled flew through the air to a deeply forested area, and there was a house in the middle of the forest. Again, the symbols. What's the dense forest? This is about getting through the earthly realms, through to a perception that we associate, a thought perception, a lightening of the body that we might associate with the afterlife. And my mother was there. And she warned me about one of my children, something that I needed to bear in mind. And then she left me just as quickly as she came, and I was in the middle of this deeply forested area thinking, how on earth am I going to get back to where I have to go? In other words, how am I going to get back to my body? Somehow I did it. And again, the power of thought. It's not how we move in the earthly realm, so it's alien to us, but somehow I figured it out and I got back into my body. The next day I heeded the warning, because I used my gut, knowing this was a prophetic warning dream. I needed to take note, and I was able to figure out and address what was going on with one of my children and potentially avert a disaster. So there's that aspect of prophetic dreams. It's also travelling in the astral plane, communicating with afterlife. I recall a dream which I'm absolutely dead certain was when I met my soul tribe, if you like. It was like I was going home, that feeling of going home in the dream. And there were all these people welcoming me there. They were so full of love and so happy to see me that I knew all these people, but in my current lifetime, I didn't. These were people that obviously I had been interacting with right through lifetimes, and it was just a beautiful feeling to be there, and I didn't really want to come home. But I did come home, back to earth, come to my home in my bed, my earthly home. So again, such a rich tapestry that dreams present us with, so many opportunities that we can bring into this life and use in such constructive evolutionary ways. If you haven't got yourself a dream dictionary, hopping onto trains within dreams, can portend change, can actually pretend travel sometimes, but can portend changes that are going on in your life, and also desire for freedom. So, get yourself a dream dictionary and start paying note of your dreams. Keep a dream diary. It's incredibly rich experience. Now I want to move to nightmares, the things that we don't want to talk about, but of course they have their place as well. You can get that feeling of paralysis in dreams. And I remember somebody who was very highly religious was going through a marriage breakup, highly anxious at the time, and experienced dream paralysis, but didn't know what it was. So he interpreted it as the devil was sitting on my chest and I couldn't move, and that increased his fear. Because that's the thing with religion. You hand the control over to somebody else. With spirituality, this is one in the same. God is both within and without, and it's about that beautiful relationship with the Creator, but also the God within yourself. So, this person was fearful and anxious in his waking life and had this sleep paralysis. I found that nightmares do throw up your fears, both consciously at the psychological level and subconsciously, subconscious fears that you're not aware of. And so being brave in these dreams and stepping forward is really a safe bet on yourself to figure this out, to get through this potentially fearful and anxious and worrying time, and to have that trust in God and in yourself. The afterlife, just as much as your, depending on, where you are at with your evolutionary type of journey, I always, since I was very, very little, that's not the right word, just asked. That's a simple way to describe it. For the archangels, my guardian angel, God, to protect me, and Goddess, to protect me during my dreams, to allow only light in, to allow only higher vibrational energies in. And that has been a breakthrough for me, because fear sometimes can attract negativity in. And so just doing that, asking for protection as you go off to sleep, allowing messages for my higher good can give you that kind of protection. So when I've woken up with any sort of fear that is not connected to me, maybe if I'm staying elsewhere, maybe if my home needs a bit of a cleanse, I always fall back on that protection that I've asked for, and I trust and have faith that that protection is there. So nightmares are always, or mostly always, equated with fear not mostly, are always equated with fear of some sort, whether that's a fear that you have in waking life, or even if there are energies of a particular place that aren't so positive, your fear of that will make things worse. And so it is about confronting fear at the end of the day. So I'm going to pull from the Good Tarot, as I do with all readings in my podcast. What do our dreams what are they trying to tell us? And again, you can listen to my podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Samsung, all the major podcasting channels, as well as Podbean. I have a website over on Podbean. I generally publish my podcast links on my website, and my social media, but now they'll also be on YouTube, on the Random Sage with Maryann from Revealing Light podcast page, and I'll put a link to that on Podbean for you to find if you really want to have a look at the tarot reading. So let's have a look at what our dreams are trying to tell us. What are our dreams? Let me just tune in clairvoyantly for one moment. What are our dreams trying to tell us? It is all about divine connection. It is all about the light. It's all about the light within. It is evolution. Dreams allow us to evolve if we use them as a tool, which is the purpose of this podcast, to try and get this message through. Dream diary, dream dictionary. It won't be long before you start to dream vividly. What are our dreams trying to tell us, please, Spirit? What are our dreams trying to tell us? Ah, yes, the star. Okay, the star card has just come forward. This is around giving us hope. And I want to say also that hope is not something that appears upon the horizon like a magic wand. Hope is faith, hope is trust in yourself and in spirit. It's backing yourself and backing your connection, your relationship with the divine. A star at its most brightest is light. And it's also your defense. It's the armor of light. It is the armor that protects your chakra or astral body. And there's no greater protection than hope, faith, trust, belief in yourself and in spirit. They can also give us messages about our current earthly lifetime. We're not somehow superior to the other beings and animals, animal life, tree life, plant life. We're not superior. We sometimes forget we are part of this earth. And earth, if we know one thing, we know about evolution, how all species thrive and survive and evolve. And dreams play their part in our evolution. They are messages from the past, from the present, and from the future. They allow us to look at something with a logical mind, to work something out. They are indeed a part of our spiritual connection, our higher self. They are there to help us. And that's a good reason to tap into them. And they can help us grow wise, become wise. They can set us on our pathway toward greater wisdom as human beings. If you look back in our history, the history of inventions and great leaps of progress often started with a dream. I'm pretty sure Michelangelo, the great was he Renaissance artist? I'm pretty sure most artists can dream their paintings. They take the landscapes of other worlds. They can help us understand our emotions and our fear. Fear is an emotion. We don't think of fear like that, but it is. When you're fearful, your heart pounds. Your chest feels like it's going to explode. We get blood rush, fight or flight. It can help us understand our fears. And they can very much take us back to the past, not just in this life, but also past lives as well. But very much understanding in this current lifetime what those patterns of our past, our younger lives were all about. That's why sometimes we'll dream of a scene or a person we knew a long time ago when we were growing up, a decade ago, someone we worked with. They contain messages about the past. And in looking at the past and understanding the past and becoming wise about the past, we set ourselves up, we prepare the ground for our new beginnings. They can also teach us about rest. I don't know how many dreams I've had when I was a younger newspaper editor, getting out an edition of the newspaper every single day, going from nothing in the morning to an edition at night. That was pretty daunting, pretty tiring. I used to sub-edit as well as edit as well as manage. And I often have dreams now of how tired I was in those days, and that lets me know that I must pace myself in this lifetime, that I must not overwork, that I'm doing a disservice to myself and to others, despite what others might expect. They can also teach us about our divisions with other people, our relationships with other people, and highlight where we need to work with each other for greater stability. They also very much teach us about love lost and how that feels, and love gained and how that feels, and how someone might have loved us in ways that we couldn't perceive back then, but we do now. That's the podcast, Dreaming on Dreams. I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in whatever way you wish to, whether that's on a podcast forum, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, Google, Samsung, whatever, Player FM, I'm there too. Or whether you're just watching this, on YouTube, if you prefer to visually see me as well. Whatever way you're listening, thank you for tuning in, and I'll be back again soon. Let me turn off the audio. Thank you. I'll see you next time. And the video. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.